Tonight on the Vince Dow Show, Matt Walsh demonetized by YouTube. A very bad situation here that might have implications for the rest of us. Not good. I'll let you know the details, though, because it is important. Also, the Biden administration, in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion, is doing something that not only screws over everyone, but is very likely to cause another 2008-style housing crash. I will tell you the details of that in a second. Also, a transgender lawmaker makes outrageous claims in Montana. The claim specifically is that not putting children on puberty blockers is, and I quote, tantamount to torture. We will react to and respond to that speech. That's all coming up tonight on a remote episode of The Vince Dow Show. Stay tuned, everyone. And we are live tonight, not from the great state of Florida. We are live tonight remotely from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. As I've talked about, I'm on a business trip right now this weekend, and so we didn't do a show last night because I just had too much going on. I was hoping to do tonight's show live, but I just can't trust this hotel Wi-Fi. I don't know. Like, you know, it might have worked, but also we might be in the possibility where it's just like, everyone's like lag in the chat, and it would just be an unusable episode. So I did not want to take that chance. Tonight's show is being pre-recorded. But with that said, welcome everyone to the Vince Dow Show. I am your host, Vince Dow. And before I begin, everyone be sure to leave a like and subscribe right now if you are new. We normally, I should say, do this show live every Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, but because I am an idiot and because, we can never get things going, sometimes it's pre-recorded, sometimes it starts at 8:30. Normally, okay, when I have my act together, we do this show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So be sure to join us whenever you can. All right. I can't see how many likes are on the stream right now, but be sure to leave a like on the stream. And if you want to support the show, feel free to send it in via a super chat. You can still send in super chats through the live chat. And also, I should have my Cash App linked and pinned there if you don't want to give 30% of your donation to Big Tech. So if you want to support the show and you want to keep the lights on and keep this going here tonight, feel free to send in a super chat or a Cash App donation to support. It is all greatly appreciated. God bless you, folks. I won't be able to read them tonight, but I will read them. I'll try to be in live chat hopefully tonight, so that way I can react to them live. But all right, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm still sick. My voice, it's crazy. I've been trying to talk, and it's one thing for your voice to just sound bad, like it's fine. It is what it is. I think people understand. But I've had this thing lately where, obviously, probably traveling and stuff is making my voice way worse, but it gets like itchy. Like, I start talking, and I'm like, okay, I did, and then my voice gets itchy, and then I start coughing. It's like, I can't talk past a certain amount, so let's see, I hope we make it through tonight. All right, but with that said, ladies and gentlemen, before my voice absolutely just dies on camera, let's check the time. It is the hour of Dow. Let the Vinsanity commence. Let's get into the show tonight. All right. Well, I dropped that. It's great to be in our nation's capital, by the way. I know, obviously, it's a city that's just a disaster these days and all that, but it's a beautiful city. I have to say that, right? That's the one thing DC has that a lot of other cities in our country can't say, because, most of our we're a newer country in history, right? So most of our cities are like just modern looking, ugly, blocky building. DC is like one of the only cities in our country with classical architecture, and it is quite beautiful. And there's still something. I understand. There's homeless tweakers everywhere. Although I had one the other day that was saying, like, F the government, F anyone who works for the government, and you're all corrupt, satanic. It's kind of based. But anyways, I'm rambling. But it is great once in a while to be in the Capitol, but I don't know how people live here. I feel very bad for all the Capitol Hill staffers and whatnot. But all right. Into the news tonight. So we open tonight with this Matt Walsh drama. because I think it's of relative importance to content creators, and especially you guys, the fans of content creators like you and I. Now, obviously, everyone's been talking about the big ordeal this week where Matt Walsh got hacked and all that stuff, and the hacker is threatening them with blackmail and all that. Understandably, everyone's making a big story out of that, and the whole thing sucks. But my thing on that is that, yes, that hacker should be in jail and all that, but it is something that with enough time and resources, you can get resolved, right? You do all the lawsuits, you can eventually get the Twitter account back, all that stuff. I feel like the bigger story here that really no one has been talking about is the fact that this week, Matt Walsh got his show permanently demonetized by YouTube for speaking up about transgenderism. And according to him, it was specifically for not respecting preferred pronouns. I think that's what they said. And Matt Walsh is not the only one. Tim Pool and Sarah Gonzalez and many others have had several videos removed. And so it seems that YouTube right now is seriously cracking down on any right-wing discussion of transgenderism. And that presents a very bad and urgent situation that I don't know what to do about. And there's two levels here. There's the personal level as a creator, and then there's the political implications of it. We'll start by talking politically because I'm not that self-centered. But let me be completely blunt, right? The reason this is happening is that the last few months, the right wing has been making some serious strides in combating the LGBT ABC transformer agenda. And it's been optimistic to see, because for once you see the right wing going on offense, actually like pushing back up the slippery slope. But the thing is, I feel like the main mechanism that all this stuff has been happening is on YouTube or things related to YouTube. You think about it. One of the biggest voices in the transgenderism debate has been what? Daily Wire. Daily Wire is a big force on where? YouTube, right? But then I think of this other stuff, YAF lectures, all this other stuff. It's a YouTube thing, it absolutely is. And if on this platform we can't even criticize, say, Dylan Mulvaney anymore, at least I think that's what we can't do, because I don't even really know the standards here. They're all incredibly vague and subjective and unclear. You read the YouTube TOS, like, it's nothing specific. It is all vague. It is like, you cannot be hateful or derogatory towards a person or group. Okay, but what does that mean? Can we have examples? Again, they're all incredibly vague and subjective and unclear. And there's not much we can do about it. It's basically a matter of whenever they decide they want to enforce them subjectively, that's what they're going to do. And so, it puts the right wing, I think, in this site in a serious predicament. And I get it. You can go on Rumble. I am on Rumble, and you should follow me on Rumble. And since we're talking about this topic, let me use that as an opportunity, right? Rumble, link in the description. Go subscribe on there, absolutely. Or if you're Matt Walsh, you can go put your show on dailywire.com. But we also ought to understand that both of those things are what? They are alt-tech websites. They are alternative tech. So sure, the loyal existing audiences of these people will follow them there. We also have to understand that as much as I love Rumble, as much as I love dailywire.com, liberals and undecided people are not going there. They're not going to Rumble. They're not going to dailywire.com. And one day, I hope that these platforms get so big that they really are that powerful. But these alone do not yet have the power to influence public discourse like, say, YouTube and especially Twitter can. Now, a place like Rumble can have a lot of based content that people like us go and watch. But this in itself is not going to drive political conversation. It's not going to be able to influence lawmakers the way, say, Daily Wire has on YouTube, or do any of the stuff that we've been able to do thus far, right? And that's of serious concern. And that's something I hope legally we can get figured out here. Because, again, I know what everyone's going to say. Just go to Rumble. Yeah, okay, go to Rumble. I get it. I post on Rumble. I support Rumble, right? But to pretend, like the audience on there is as big as YouTube yet, that's just not true. And then B, that it has the cultural influence of big tech, which is arguably more important. These things just aren't true. And this is why it's not enough to just say, well, you don't like big tech, go use Rumble, go use Getter or whatever. Again, we love those things. Everyone use those things. And but I'm just saying, it's not enough to simply retreat everything over there. Like, we have to try to do our best, if it takes legal means, to try to get free speech on a platform like this, But, there's that. And then on a personal level, I guess the other question is, what does someone like me do? What does an independent content creator supposed to do about this? Because, you know, I think I love you guys, right? But I'm not of the size or prominence of Matt Walsh where people will follow me anywhere, right? I don't have this big Rumble deal. I don't have a network or anything like that, okay? I'm an independent content creator. There's a lot of people out there like me, just normal independent people. And like, what are we supposed to do under these guidelines, right? God forbid anything happens, we are pretty much screwed, and I don't know what to do about it other than, I guess, try my best to understand the vague and unclear YouTube guidelines that don't make a whole lot of sense, right? Because I can tell you, go subscribe to my Rumble, which again I will, link in the description, but only about 5 to 10% of you watching that, right, will actually do that. That's social science. There's only a small fraction of you, when I say, go subscribe to Rumble, are actually going to do it. That's just the science behind it, right? And realistically, if I had that situation happen to me, permanently demonetized, I basically can't use my YouTube channel anymore. There's not a whole lot I could do about that situation besides hope that, like, 5 to 10% of you guys follow me to Rumble, because I don't have the money or the institution behind me to really do anything else. And again, I'm not alone. Every independent content creator basically has this problem that wants to remotely tell the truth. Now, the good news is that Matt Walsh did announce today that they would be taking this fight to Capitol Hill, and basically what they're talking about doing is forcing YouTube's hand legally into making them explain all of these vague and constantly confusing guidelines, and forcing YouTube to provide clear and non-arbitrary community guidelines, right? Which is great news. I hope they succeed, because Lord knows we could use some transparency over here at YouTube. But yeah, there's the Matt Walsh situation. Obviously stand with Matt Walsh. Hope they get the whole situation figured out there, and hope the legal efforts here, the political efforts against YouTube and getting some transparency at YouTube obviously succeed. And again, while we're at it, go check out the Rumble. All right, well, if you're watching the stream right now, be sure to leave a like. And if you don't leave a like for the show, leave a like for my voice. All right, listen, we are persevering. You don't know how itchy my throat is right now. It is painful to talk. We're doing the content for you. So the least you could do is leave a like. All right, leave a like on the stream. Let's get to 100 likes or something. I don't know. But anyways, on to our next story here. We got to talk about this Biden housing policy that you might have seen some of the conservative media ecosystem talk about. But if you have not, we will give you the information here tonight. So let me start off by doing a little bit of an elegant speech here. All right, if you are a conservative like me, I'm sure it is probably a big priority that you want to own a house one day. This is, of course, the American dream, right? To buy a house, raise a family in that house, etc., etc. You may notice as of late, largely thanks to the people in power, that it is getting harder out there to buy a house. And there are several reasons for this. Obviously, one reason is inflation. Another reason is that a lot of big firms like BlackRock and a lot of foreign investors are essentially buying out entire patches of American real estate and then forcing people to rent out of them, right? Which is creating a housing shortage, not just in those places, but also nationwide, right? Because we understand affects, price, scarcity, all those things affect each other across the nation, right? And, I know people who have literally told me, in fact, this weekend in DC, I've had people tell me, yeah, my hometown, like this entire block, you can't even buy a house there because it's all owned by BlackRock, and this is insane. And, if we understand, as Thomas Jefferson and many of our founding fathers did, that property ownership is necessary for a stable and healthy republic, then it might be safe to say that if we have a country where property ownership is impossible, we're going to be a bit screwed, right? There's something to be said about property ownership and the stake that it gives people in society, and the ability it gives people to raise families and kind of create generations of families that we are leaving to the wayside because no one wanted to step in and stop the greed of, say, a BlackRock or whatever. But, disregarding my little opening speech, let's say you are totally persistent. It's rough out there, but it sucks. But let's say you are the person who does everything right. You work hard, you save up for a house, you maintain a good credit score your whole life so that you can go out and get a mortgage and buy a house, all this stuff. And then you find out that one president, Joseph Robert Brandon, says, Listen here, Jack. We're gonna give your mortgage to some weed smoking bum on credit card debt while I eat my chocolate chip. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about this current Biden housing rule that everyone is talking about, okay? Fox News reports, quote, Biden rule will redistribute high-risk loan costs to homeowners with good credit. So what does this mean? Especially to the kids out there are like, what does that mean? Well, when you have a credit score, when you have a good credit score, that means you are someone who has paid back all of their loans. They always pay back their credit card, etc., etc. You have shown through the course of you loaning out money and then paying back the money that you can be trusted with money, right? Now, you've been told your whole life that the reason why you, Jimmy, need to maintain a good credit is because it helps you get good loans, right? So usually if you have a good credit, it's easier to get a loan. You get a better mortgage rate because the bank will say, oh, you're trustworthy. We can tell that you'll pay it back. We don't have to have high interest rates to make sure we get the money out of you or whatever because we trust you're in this for the long term. You're going to be able to pay back all the money, right? And so, but what they're doing, what Biden is doing, is they're taking the bad loan rates, the bad interest rates, the bad loans that are designed purposely for the fools with bad credit, and instead forcing people, the responsible people with good credit, to pay those types of loans. And it's basically a redistribution of loans that they're doing here. So let's just say that you're some idiot thug who just smokes weed and runs up credit card debt on stupid blank all the time your whole life. You never pay back your credit cards. You never pay back loans, all this stuff. You default on everything. If you are that person, if you are that degenerate, lazy person, this new Biden rule is essentially saying that you are now going to get the loan of the 9-to-5 person who's been working and paying all their bills back and has good credit. And then on the other hand, according to this rule, if you are someone with a credit score above 680, which is the number that they're setting, you're now going to have to pay higher interest rates in order to, quote, subsidize the weed smoking fool so that he can get a better mortgage rate. I mean, do I need to explain that? Why that's so unfair? That's ridiculous. So in other words, if you spend your whole life building up good credit, now you're not even rewarded for that. Now you have to use your good credit to subsidize the idiot with bad credit. This country is seriously screwed. I don't need to tell you that. And by now making it easier for idiots with bad credit to take out irresponsible loans, remember 2008? We know what's going to happen. I think a lot of us can tell what is coming next. Which is why you need to be prepared today with our sponsors over at Noble Gold Investments. Folks, I don't need to tell you, as we just explained, that we are clearly on the verge of recession or some type of economic collapse. You cannot trust the US dollar. You obviously cannot trust the real estate market because, if this diversity regime has its way, it's going to crash soon. But you can take a safer chance on history's most time-tested asset, which is gold and silver. When everything collapses, what do human beings turn to? That is your precious metals. Well, the Patriots over at Noble Gold can help you ensure your future in times like these with a precious metals IRA. That is essentially a retirement account that is backed by gold and silver instead of stocks, which, they're normally backed by stocks. And as you can imagine, precious metals tend to be more stable than other assets because they're physical, scarce. There's a reason why civilizations for most of history back their currency by gold or use gold as a currency, including here in the United States. So don't wait. Protect your retirement now with a precious metal IRA from Noble Gold Investments. Go check them out at my link over at VinceDaoGold.com. Again, that is VinceDaoGold.com. Do not wait. Do not get screwed over by whatever is about to come. Protect your retirement with a precious metals IRA at VinceDaoGold.com. Okay, well, back to this credit policy. First off, I don't need to tell you the aspect of this that is clearly unfair. I think we understand that. Again, why should you, hardworking person, responsible person, be forced to subsidize the loans of people who are not hardworking and not responsible? But of course, the excuse that they will use is that it's not the fact that, oh, I'm an idiot, I was reckless all my life, and that's the reason my credit sucks. What they will say is no. They have bad credit because of, wait for it, racism. Oh, and this is what several Biden officials have been saying about it. Oh, minorities have a harder time getting loans, blah, 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 because they're minorities. Which, no, it's actually not because so-and-so is black. That's not the reason why banks wouldn't give. It's because they have a bad credit score, okay? And, they always say this all the time. Oh, well, the banks are just redlining against black people, all this. No, the bank's only interest is making money and getting back their loan. That's it. The bank don't care about what color you are, okay? They care about the green. That's the only color a bank cares about. And when you have irresponsible individuals, a bank is not want to do business with an irresponsible individual. It's not about racism. It's not about their race. But that's what they really see this as, right? They always talk about redlining all this stuff, and this is the excuse they always use. Oh, the reason why black neighborhoods are poor is because banks several decades ago redlined all this stuff back in the day. And so what you essentially boil down to is this is really them pushing a form of reparations, right? That's really what this is, because I think you're going to start to see this a lot in the next few years. Democrats understand that a federal reparations bill is never going to get directly passed. Right? You might get some stuff on the state level like California is trying to do, but you're never going to get a federal bill saying this is slavery reparations. We're going to give this amount of money to every black person in the country. But I think they do understand they can get through things like these equity policies that essentially redistribute money and advantages, right? I think this is how they plan to get it done. Okay? But, obviously, I think we understand why that is wrong. We understand why that is unfair and ridiculous. And if you're like me, I'm sure it just pisses you off on a personal level. The very idea that a hardworking person who does all the right things their whole life gets screwed and given the advantage to the person who does none of those things. But I will go further than that. You have to really think about the greater implications of all of this stuff. And I mean this legitimately. This is something that could crash the entire U.S. economy, even worse than it is right now. And I'm not exaggerating that. Because if enacted, do you know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen as a result of this policy? It's not going to be like they're saying. It's not going to be that all these brokies and poor people with bad credit scores are going to end up all of a sudden being able to own homes, and all of a sudden all the poor people are going to be able to pay. Now they're going to all be paying these better mortgages that you're giving them, right? That's what Brandon is saying. She's saying, no, it's just about equity and access. And so the logic is, if we give people with bad credit the good loans, then suddenly now they will be able to pay those loans. But no, that is not what's going to happen, right? People with bad credit scores have bad credit scores for a reason, right? And the reason we have a credit score is because people understand that in all aspects of life, but including financial stuff, right? The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, right? And so what's going to happen is that, much like their credit score reflects, it's not that, oh, we give them a better mortgage, now they're going to pay it. No, they're still, like they do in every other loan, they're not going to be able to pay their mortgage. All these people with bad credit that you're handing these predatory mortgages to are all just going to default on their mortgages. And what happens then? What happens then when everyone defaults on their mortgages is now the banks lost all the money, the banks are going to crash, and the housing market's going to crash, and you have, guess what, a recession. That's what happened in 2008. That was all caused because you had some of these banks giving out stupid and reckless loans. They never got paid back. And then obviously what happens, boom, whole world goes up in flames. I am telling you, that is exactly what is going to happen again. And honestly, if we do get another 2008 style recession, and especially this time if it's done in the name of diversity, who knows what the world will look like then, right? Because you really think about how much the 2008 recession permanently screwed up this country. You ever look around and ask, what happened to this country? Why are we so socially divided? Why does it feel like money is just so scarce? You realize, you really kind of think about it. It really is the 2008 recession that screwed up this country, screwed up currency in this country, all that stuff. Imagine that happening again in very soon time. I don't think this country can survive another 2008. I really don't, because Like I said, you look at what 2008 did to our country. If you double that, maybe triple that, and then add COVID and all this stuff, I seriously don't think our civilization can survive something like that. And frankly, future Chinese kids will quite literally learn about how equity and diversity literally brought down the old American empire, brought down their former arch nemesis, because they put equity and diversity and inclusion above common sense. And that's not a joke, that's not an exaggeration. That is absolutely where we are headed. Again, oh no, you're just saying that. No, conservative platitude. No, think about it for a second, okay? You're doing this policy in the name of equity, blah, blah, blah. Again, realistically, in the real world, outside of La La Land, what's going to happen with all these loans? Like, this is exactly what is going to happen. So, all right. Anyways, on to our final story of the night here. Hold on, let me take a sip of water before my voice is totally dead. All right. Well, all right, let's go on to our final story here. Actually, I'll just play the clip and then we'll go from there. It's one of those things I feel like you got to just see it first. So here we go.
If you disallow the use of the medical care that is accepted by every major medical association, if you disallow that care and don't allow people to have access to that, the only therapy left is either A, meaningless, or B, conversion therapy, which is torture. Intersex people exist, trans people exist, and this bill doesn't change that. At the very end of the bill, the letter that says life-altering medical procedures should wait until they are adults. What I will say is, if you are, by this bill and by what these amendments do, if you are forcing a trans child to go through puberty when they are trans, that is tantamount to torture. If you vote yes on this bill, and yes on these amendments, I hope the next time there's an invocation, when you bow your heads in prayer, you see the blood on your hands.
Oh my goodness. My goodness. Absolutely unhinged from start to finish, you know? To quote Luke Skywalker, every single word that you just said is wrong. And it's just so true, all right? But what you saw there, that was a transgender Democrat state legislator, and apparently the first ever Transformer, Decepticon, LGBT, ABC person to be a state legislator in Montana, making a speech about trying to stop a bill that would ban gender surgery for children. That whole speech was just a mess. I don't know where to start, but let's just start from the beginning, okay, of what this person says and then go from there. So firstly, the Transformer says, oh, this is accepted by medical organizations. See, the medical organizations say you should give gender-affirming care to minors. Wow, so like, you're saying Big Pharma thinks it's a good idea to buy the drugs of Big Pharma? Yeah, go figure. Of course they do. Also, what about this? Since when do we allow science and medicine to actually dictate what is moral? Has anyone asked this question? Why do scientists and doctors get to dictate policy and what is morally permissible simply because they have the ability to do these procedures? You know? Oh, but science people, I really should say pseudoscience, but science people say that transing kids is a good idea, so therefore it's a good idea. No, actually, you know, I know this is something we've forgotten as a civilization, but scientists are not supposed to be moral arbiters. No one actually signed off that authority to them, right? Scientists can do a lot of things. Scientists can blow up the world. It doesn't mean that they should, okay? Scientists, frankly, in terms of on a civilizational level, should not have a say in moral issues. Okay, it should be the moralists that have a say in moral issues. Okay, science is there's no morality or immorality in the lens of science. It's all just science. It's the job of us humans, responsible humans, to actually step in and kind of control that. So there's number one. And then secondly, this Transformer claims, and I quote, if you are forcing a trans kid to go through puberty, that is tantamount to torture, end quote. That is one of the most deranged and frankly demonic things I have ever heard. Like, what? Let me read that again. If you are forcing a trans kid to go through puberty, that is tantamount to torture. Okay, first off, the reason that fails is because first and foremost, there is no such thing as forced puberty. That is not a thing. That does not exist. You cannot force someone to go through puberty. Why? Because puberty is a natural and normal and healthy and internally started and ran biological process. There's no such thing as forced puberty because no one can force you to go through puberty. No one can hold a gun to your head and say, go through puberty. It's a natural, normal, biological process, right? And you might say, oh, but your body can create cancer on its own. I suppose, but that's not a natural, it's not a normal biological process. Cancer is not meant to help and develop your body. Puberty is, okay? So don't make that, that's just ridiculous. But anyways, the Transformer says that not letting kids have puberty blockers is tantamount to torture. Letting kids' normal biological processes play out is torturing them. It is, of course, not torturing them to give them hormones that interfere with what their body is naturally trying to do. It's not torturing them, apparently, for those hormones to leave permanent effects on their body, which I know these people always say, oh, that's not true. Puberty blockers don't leave any permanent effects. And then they call us science deniers. Okay, let me state something that should be obvious and common sense, but apparently it's not. You cannot just inject hormones into your body that do something as dramatic to your body as pause the natural process of puberty. Do that for especially several years, and then suddenly expect several years later for it to turn on. Puberty will just start again as normal, and expect every aspect of it to play out the same. Okay? I'm sorry, I don't care what big pharmaceutical, it makes absolutely zero sense. Oh, but the pharmaceutical company who sells this drug says, yeah. And how much of this is actually studied and compared side by side. But they didn't die from the puberty blocker, therefore we know everything was normal. Okay. I'm just sorry, I'm not going to buy this. The very idea that, say someone's meant to go through puberty at 13. And you give them a hormone that is so strong that it literally blocks all of that natural development. You mean to tell me if you just stop doing that at 19, they're just going to start puberty back up as normal? You really mean to tell me that? And even if they do, there's a different biological degree to which if you're going through puberty at 13, 19, it's still different. Even assuming everything is still intact after putting that strong of hormones in your body, which frankly, I don't know if that's true. But, frankly, all this stuff is demonic, okay? This speech here, it's completely demonic, okay? That's the only way to say it. It's demonic, it's satanic. And I know someone's going to be like, well, I agree with you, but I'm an atheist. Okay, don't care. Because you know what this fundamentally is? And what they are fundamentally up against? This is God's natural and beautiful design of human beings. And puberty is a part of that, right? Puberty is the process that God creates that, obviously turns his children into adults and all of that, turns his creation, it's meant for his creation and it's the way he envisions humans. And then on the other hand, you have these agents of Satan who are trying to interfere with and change God's natural design. That's what's going on here, right? God creates puberty naturally. What is the enemy trying to do? What are the demons trying to do? Try to stop that from happening, change that process, right? Now, of course, the enemy always fails. He cannot create for himself. He cannot defeat God's design as much as he tries. And that's why you see the issues that you do, right? Whether you want to talk about the depression and mental health and suicide rates, or even the fact that visually, you can tell this, even if they were on puberty blockers, even if they have all the surgeries done, oftentimes, you can tell. You can always tell, right? And why is that? Why can you still always tell? Why is it never, it's because Satan cannot defeat the design of God. No matter how much he and his demons try, all they can do is essentially just leave behind all of these victims of their lies that are, oftentimes depressed and permanently scarred and sometimes have had their bodies permanently mutilated and all this stuff. That's really all the enemy has the power to do. But I cannot look at something like this as a Christian. You have puberty, right? You have the natural God's design, and them trying to make all this science to stop puberty. You know, there's something, in my opinion, inherently satanic about all of that. But all right, that is our final story of the night. Let's see. This is a 35-minute show. I can't do super chats tonight, obviously, because this is pre-prepared. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, well, that'll do it here for tonight's show. We'll be back on Monday live, once again, back in the normal studio. Hope you guys have a blessed weekend. Stay safe out there. And until next time, hopefully I feel better, by the way, okay? Wish me luck on that front. But all right, until next time, folks, Alpha Moves only. God bless. Everyone have a very good weekend, and peace.